I have followed the cases of hate speeches, of calls for genocide, and played instrumental role in issuance of guidelines against lynchings by the Honorable Supreme Court. In the video that was displayed a little while ago, there were two. I have filed a case against Mr. Suresh Chavanke and his news channel for hate speech. I'm also filing a petition very soon against that oath that we saw in the video in Chhattisgarh, where they promised they took an oath that they will not have any business or any relation with Muslims. I'm honored to be part of this August panel and this August gathering, and I will keep my statement as brief as possible. My fellow learned panelists here are better placed to throw light on the concerns related to call for genocide against Muslims in India. I will limit myself in taking you to a journey of judicial and societal silence against hate speeches. Hate speeches are not new. The call for genocide is not new. However, the judicial as well as the societal reaction, these instances of the reaction that we have seen, these instances against these instances of hate speech is shocking to say the least. Our democracy becomes a rule of majoritarian mob if the courts that are the custodian of the constitution on which the democracy stands remain silent. And sometimes this silence converts itself into enabling the demonizing of a particular community. It was in the Manohar Joshi's case the Supreme Court observed that Hindutva is a way of life, knowing fully well the dangers of Hindutva. This judgment was passed in the year 1995, much after the demolition of Babri Masjid. Hindutva nationalism had by then shown its fangs by demolishing the Babri Masjid and pushing the nation into one of its worst communal riots. That Hindutva nationalism would one day break the ethos of secularism and fraternity, on which are the integral part of the constitution, was apparent to everyone. Therefore, Supreme Court, unfortunately, acted as an enabler in strengthening the hands of Hindutva nationalism in India. Then again, in 2003, the Supreme Court, again in Sarbananda Sonowal versus Union of India, relied on wrong and uncorroborated data to declare that there was an influx of illegal migration in Assam from Bangladesh. This caused the then Atal Bihari government of that time to amend Citizenship Act, and that amendment became the tool for threatening the Indian Muslims with disenfranchisement. And then again in 2014, in Assam Samalita Mahasangh judgment, the bench led by former Justice Gogoi and former Justice Nariman, there were dog whistles against the Bengalis of Assam, twice. When once Justice Nariman remarked that these people are enemy aliens. This remark was a dog whistle because even if we presume that all those who are alleged to be an illegal immigrant are in fact illegal immigrant, still Bangladesh was not an enemy nation. For a learned judge, for an honorable judge of the Supreme Court sitting at that position to make such casual remarks was nothing but a dog whistle. And then again, in Assam Samalita judgment, when the judgment came, the judgment started with a quote that said, and I quote, "A prophet is without honor in his own country. Substitute citizen for prophet, and you will get the gist of various writ filed under Article 32 of the Constitution of India." Unquote. This to show that there is a separate class of people in Assam, that they are Assamese and they're illegal immigrants, and no data, no concrete data till date backs the finding of the Supreme Court. Then again, the silence continues. Recently in Tehseen Poonawalla versus Union of India, a 3-judge bench of the Supreme Court set out preventive, remedial, and punitive measures for the central and state governments as well as law enforcement agencies to deal with the increasing incidents of lynching in India. I have had the honor to assist the Honorable Supreme Court in this. A number of these measures were time-bound, and the court exhibited a sense of urgency in having the governments respond to and implement its direction. The court observed that, and I quote, "Horrendous acts of mobocracy cannot be permitted to inundate the law of the land," unquote, and earnest action and concrete steps have to be taken to protect the citizens from recurrent pattern of violence, which cannot be allowed to become the new normal, unquote. The matter, however, was last heard on September 24, 2018. And since then, multiple attempts have been made by me, by my fellow lawyers, other petitioners, to move to the Supreme Court to take stock of the implementation of its guidelines, because the guidelines were very crucial. The guidelines, in fact, brought a brief lull in the cases of lynching. But none of our efforts have met with much success. Then in 2014, in Pravasi Bhalai Sangathan, the Supreme Court, sorry, please bear with me, I'm slightly under the weather. In Pravasi Bhalai Sangathan, the petitioner asked for relief in nature of mandamus declaring hate speech on lines of religion, caste, etc. made by politicians, such as suo motu registration of FIR in hate speech matters and termination of the membership of MPs and MLAs if they are found guilty. The court did pass a very good judgment. However, it stopped short of passing the guidelines. It asked the media to observe restraint. It asked the law commission to come out with its finding. And since then, nothing has happened in this matter. And I personally and very sincerely believe that the judiciary is the only institution that is capable of stopping the fast growing hate in the country, but very unfortunately seems to have lost its way. Now, if we talk about specifically about the hate speech, there is a recent data that relies on the NCRB data, National Crime Reports Bureau data, from between 2016 and 2020. At the beginning of 2020, there were 1,217 cases of hate speech pending with the police. In 59% of these cases, final report was filed. Police files a final report when the investigation is complete at their end and where they are unable to file a charge sheet against the accused. It just goes on to shows the laxity on the part of the police, on the part of the authorities, that willingness to look the other side. And when they're not looking the other side, they have been accused of being complicit in violence and hate speeches. Now, this most of these communal violences, that the riots that we have seen, are carried out by what is called fringe Hindu organizations or Hindutva organizations. I slightly disagree with this definition, because once an organization has support of the state machinery, or if the state machinery is only as much willing to look the other side, then it does not remain a fringe organization. Now, if we take one of the very famous but still not much talked about Nelly massacre that happened in 1983 in Assam. Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, the former prime minister, was campaigning at that time in Assam, and he was in some reports quoted as saying, foreigners have come here and the government does nothing. What if they had come into Punjab instead? People would have chopped them into pieces and thrown them away. This was followed by Nelly massacre. Till date, there has not been one single conviction in Nelly massacre case because of the Assam Accord. Now, these communal genocidal speech by political outfits led to large-scale violence against the minority community. Apart from the inherent bigotry and Islamophobia, patriarchy is another commonality among these genocides. It is well known that women have often been sexually brutalized during communal riots. Most of India's major communal massacres after independence have been marked by extreme public cruelty and brutality against women. The Gujarat carnage stands out for its extensive and focused targeting of women, young girls, and children who were exposed to the most heinous and terrible forms of violence. Rape was used as an instrument for the subjugation and humiliation of a community. The 2002 rioters did not confine their filth to Muslim. They also targeted people of other religion who had any association with Muslims. Often Muslim women bodies are reduced to pawns and masculine tales of nationalism, owing to the patriarchal, deeply ingrained view that women are the markers of each group and the repositories of the honor and dignity of the communities to which they belong. In this context, it is important to highlight the recent disgusting incidents of Sulli deals and bully buy apps, where Indian Muslim women of all age were ostensibly auctioned off by a far-right Hindutva group called the Trats. One of the victims is amongst us in the panel. It all started with the rating of Pakistani women who had put their Eid photographs on social media by a YouTuber called Liberal Dog. It was followed up by selective targeting of certain prominent social media Muslim women voices on Twitter. An FIR was registered in this regard with the Delhi police. However, no concrete action was taken against the perpetrators. Around the time then, when Muslims in India were celebrating the festival of Eid al-Azha, an app was created on GitHub called Sulli Deals. Sulli, being a degrading term for Muslim women, who was used to portray that these women are available to be auctioned off. 2 FIRs were filed, one with the Noida police, the other with the Delhi police. The issue was raised internationally. There was a huge outrage. The issue was escalated even to the level of Home Minister by a Congress MP named Dr. Javed. Again, as we have seen time and again, however, no concrete action was taken by Delhi police. This silence and inaction by the authorities emboldened these creatures. These are just filthy creatures and nothing else, who, taking advantage of anonymity, created another app on New Year called Bully Bhai. The app was similar to the previous Sulli Deal app in as much as it used the photographs of Indian Muslim women without their consent and in a very obscene context. It will not be wrong to infer that they created another app after all the outrage only because law and order machinery looked the other way. The idea behind these apps was to dehumanize Indian Muslim women to the extent that people will look the other way when the genocide happens. This happened in Germany and this happened in Rwanda, and we all are aware of the deaths, of the trauma, and of the pain. However, in the instance of Bully Bhai app, an FIR was filed with Mumbai police as well as Delhi police, and Mumbai police quickly moved into action and arrested 4 accused persons. The Delhi police also picked up the cue from the Mumbai police and arrested 2 accused and has arrested 2 accused persons till date. All these accused persons remain behind the bar. I've had the honor of personally assisting in lodging of most of these FIRs. This just goes on to show that if the state authority have the will and they want to, they can bring to an end such brutal and shameless action. For a variety of reasons, we consider legal justice for survivors of community violence to be a critical public good. Without it, India's Muslims cannot be assured of protection and certainty of non-recurrence, denying them substantive equality guaranteed by the Constitution. The promise of the state intervening on behalf of the harmed and the wronged to bring justice removes the potential of private settlement based on individual revenge from the hands of the aggrieved, allowing violence to spiral out of control. This spiral is something that the public good of justice can prevent. The fact that the wheel of law moved to prevent the acts of lynching and to arrest the perpetrators of Sulli Bulli Bhai app shows that maybe not all is lost. That the constitution that our founding fathers gave to us may seem inadequate at times, but I have hope that this constitution will only turn, it will be this constitution that will turn the tide of time. And it is also an earnest hope and prayer that the courts henceforth at least will not look the other way when called upon to protect the minorities, the violence, hate speech and genocide, and break the cycle of hate speech and genocide. So in order to break that wheel of violence and hate speech, the authorities must stand up and destroy that axle of impunity by doing their job and safeguarding the marginalized. Thank you.